off. Hello everyone, I'm back to work on the 1967 Honda CT90. And here's where I left off. The engine's been removed and it's in the garage. They were all torn down. That was a previous video. Here's some of the parts I've taken off. And next I'm going to tear down the bike down to the bare frame. And I've done this once before, so I guess I'm an expert now. I'm qualified to make a video. Anyway, I'm going to do it out here outside because I have more room. Don't really need to do it on a rack. It might be a little bit easier, but it's possible to do it here without crawling around on your hands and knees and laying down on the ground. I'm going to be sitting in a chair, and my tools are on this media cart. And well, let me show you what I found out on the previous bike that I tore down. And I did release a video and still pictures of the other bike. So here's what we have. The CT90 will balance slightly forward. The rear wheel is slightly off the ground. The balance is the same with the motor in or out, the engine in or out. You can take off the rear wheel and it'll just lean forward more and be more steadily on the front wheel. Or you can take the front wheel off first, and once the weight of the front wheel is off, then the bike will rock back on the back wheel. And you know, it's a little bit of a delicate balance. It might be good to support the bike on something so it stays up. If you take the front wheel off and the bike leans forward or leans down, because of the way the center stand folds and the angle, it may have a tendency to collapse on you. So I'm going to take the rear wheel off first, and I'll take all the parts off the back of the bike, and then I'll move to the front. So that's the plan. Everything from the midpoint of the back to the rear will be removed first, and then parts in the front will be removed. It'll be pretty much left just on the center stand, and I can turn that over and take a few parts off the center. All right, well, let's get started. First, I'll take off the seat, gas tank, and the rear seat, and whatever that rack is called. All right, if you're just taking the seat off, you can take these two nuts off right here, or you can pull this bolt off, this pivot bolt off, and the seat will come off. But you can also take off the seat and the tank as one unit. And when I got this bike, these two bolts here were missing. So, and there's also two on the other side. One was holding the muffler on, but they're missing. So now we can just pull it off, and we'll be pulling through those two fuel lines. All right, next I'll take this buddy seat off, and there's a couple nuts on the bottom to take off first. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I'll show when I get it off. All right, this is what was holding the buddy seat on, but I'm not sure this is really Honda. This is probably aftermarket. This was a 14 millimeter. This is some SAE size, Imperial size. So probably not Honda. Anyway, that's the seat. And those two nuts are on the bottom of these two screws here. All right, well, next I'll remove the rack. There's another bracket here. Probably should have been one here, but it's missing. And that'll take this one. That'll take this one off. Well, the next thing is this rear rack here, the little one. And it's pretty straightforward. Actually, everything is pretty straightforward. Just doing the steps. If you've done this before, you probably won't want to watch this video, but anyway, if you haven't, it's kind of nice to see it one time. So there's 2 bolts in here that have to come off, and then there's 2 right under the back part of the rack. And we'll take those off, it'll come right off. Well, not much left on this side here. There's the this cover, this plastic cover, and if you're lucky, underneath it you'll find a toolkit in a plastic bag, plastic or vinyl bag. The hole in the back there is for the ignition switch. It's missing on this bike. Of course, the toolkit was too. All right, well, that's what it looks like on this side now. Let's go around the other side and see what we can take off. There's this bracket to hold the battery, and there's also supposed to be one on the inside, but this one's missing. A lot of parts are missing, aren't there? And we'll take off the rectifier too. Unplug those 2 wires there on the bottom, and the 2 bolts. Sometimes these connections are a little hard to get apart, so here's what I do to open them up. Too bad there isn't a tool to do that, but let me try the other one too. All right, and this battery bracket, there's just a cotter pin holding that on. Well, now we're ready to take off the rear wheel, and even though it is off the ground, it's not up quite high enough. So I'm going to put a 2x4 under that center stand, and that'll raise it up enough so that we can take the rear wheel off and it'll drop under and clear the fender. Okay, well, it's up high enough now. We can start taking it off. All right, there's 2 parts we need to take off from this side, and one of them is down here. It's the bracket that connects to the brake panel to keep it from turning, and the other one is the linkage for the brake arm itself. Okay, 14mm nut. This is what the bolt looks like, and it has a little hole in it for a pin. Alright, next we're going to take off the bolt that actually holds the wheel on. Okay, there's two nuts here, a smaller one and a larger one. Smaller one is threaded onto the actual axle itself, and you can take that off and the wheel will come off and leave the sprocket. If there's a chain on it, it'll leave all that intact. Then you can take this larger nut off and it'll take the sprocket off. There's a spacer here on the right hand side, and if we take that off, then the wheel will come off. Oh, first you gotta take the axle out. And sometimes you have to loosen the adjusting nuts, so we'll do that now. It's a 10mm nut. That one's loose. This hammer is pretty soft. Don't want to damage the threads. Coming off, but not too smoothly. Alright, now we can take the spacer off, and the wheel should just come right off. It just clears. And you can check out the those rubber cushions, make sure they're okay to use again. Alright, now this nut that holds the sprocket on, it's a 23mm socket. It just comes right off. All right, let's take the taillight off next. It's nice and clean inside here. Surprise. His wires don't want to come off, and that's pretty common. So you can either work with it on here, leave it on, or you may have to cut them off. Let me try. Oh, got it. Oh, that was lucky. Didn't break anything. And there is the taillight assembly. Next, we're ready to take off the swing arm. And to do that, we remove the shock. There's a nut on the top and one on the bottom on both sides. We'll take both shocks off, and then there's a nut over here for the pivot bolt. And you take that nut off and it'll all come off. That's 19 millimeter on the top. Oh, my hands are in the way or not. And the bottom one's 17 millimeters. That one is 17 millimeter. And it's off. Now we can get to these parts up here. I don't know what they're called, the shock mount covers. They were chrome at one time. I don't know how well this is going to clean up, but it's a screw with another number 3 Phillips, and the inside is a 10mm nut. I like this chair. I can just scoot around wherever I want to be. Too hard. All right, here's what it looks like. There's a screw, lock washer, and a nut. And I'll take the rest of them off camera. No reason to make this video any longer. It's going to be, which is going to be pretty long. Well, that pretty much takes care of the back end of this motorcycle, and pile of parts is starting to grow. Next, maybe we'll move over and we'll take off the front end, the headlight, the wheel, the handlebars, speedometer. We get all the front end off.